Hey everyone, Robert Ferringo of Doc Sports here with your Ferringo 5 for college football for the weekend of November 2nd. Happy November to everyone. Be sure to check me out at www.docsports.com. That's www.docsports.com. For those of you that are unfamiliar, the Ferringo 5, I take a look at 5 college football games that are most intriguing to me. The 5 games that I'm going to be paying the most attention to or that I am most interested in on Saturday. These aren't necessarily the 5 most intriguing games. Some of my interest could be due to line movements or just shady lines being posted. Some of my interest could be whether a team is going to have a letdown from a game last week or a look ahead to a game the following week. And some of it is just kind of general curiosity. So these are the 5 games. These aren't necessarily games that I have plays in or that I have released rated picks to my clients in. These are just the 5 games that I am most interested in this college football weekend. All right, first game that we're going to be looking at is Michigan at Maryland. This is a noon game, early kickoff, and this one is pretty straightforward. I have been a Harbaugh defender, and I have been a Michigan backer to my detriment over the last 2 or 3 years. Everyone, including myself, had just about written them off about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Well, when you know it, they've started to play their best football. They're coming off their best win of the season. They absolutely dominated Notre Dame. That was a rated play winner for my clients last week. They're 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. So everyone, it's the old thing. Everyone's jumping off the bandwagon. That's the time for you to jump on, and vice versa. So now I want to see if they are going to have a letdown after that big win over Notre Dame. Was that a one-off? Was that just, wrong time, wrong place for the Irish? Or is Michigan actually building towards something? Are they better? Did people write them off too early? It's a big number. It's a big number. That spread opened at 17.5. It has been bet up to 21. We don't know what we're going to get from Maryland. This is a team that lost 59-0 at home to Penn State. But this is also a team that bombed Syracuse. They scored 62 points and beat Syracuse by 40 earlier in the year. So what team of theirs is going to show up? So it's an early kickoff, and that's going to be the first game that I'm watching, especially in that noon block of games. All right, the next interesting game to me is Army at Air Force. Okay, and this isn't gonna move the meter very much. Not too many people are excited for Army at Air Force. I'm very interested in this game. All right, we have 2 option teams, 2 rivals, armed services rivalry game going right here. Army has beat Air Force each of the last 2 meetings. This spread is enormous. This spread is around 15.5, 16. It really was one of the spreads that jumped out at me when I first looked at the card this week. And it didn't seem to make much sense. Again, Army has been a bowl team each of the last 2 years. They've beaten Air Force each of the last 2 years. They have been a great against the spread team. Excuse me. Each of the last 2 years. So why are they 16-point underdogs against Air Force? Air Force is stepping out of conference right now. They've been playing pretty well in conference. They're coming off a big win last week, blowout win over Utah State last week. Now they got to dip out of conference and play a rivalry game against an Army team that plays a similar style of football as them. Option teams are always great as underdogs. So again, why so many points? I'm just interested to see if Air Force is really going to lay the wood or if Army is going to cover the spread in this game and it's going to be one of those, that was so obvious, you had to take it type of games. All right, game number 3 that I am interested in is UAB at Tennessee. Okay, usually this late in the season, you see this like Texas A&M is playing Texas San Antonio. Like at this point in the SEC schedule, you will see some random non-conference games which you're not expecting in November, right? Like November football in college football should be all about rivalries, conference play, deciding who wins divisions or who wins conference championships, all right? So it's a little odd to see UAB going to Tennessee. UAB, I don't think any team in the country over the last 2.5 years has been better against the spread than the Blazers. Since they reconstituted that program 3 years ago, they have done nothing but exceed expectations and nothing but be a fantastic against the spread moneymaker. You know that they are more excited about this game, the Blazers, than Tennessee is. Okay, you know that UAB has had this game circled. The boys from Alabama getting their chance against a big-name team from the SEC. It doesn't matter that Tennessee has been irrelevant in the SEC for over a decade, okay? When you're at UAB, that doesn't matter. What matters is you're playing the Tennessee freaking Volunteers. You get a crack at an SEC school. They are 12-point underdogs in that game. Is UAB going to threaten an upset here? It's not like Tennessee hasn't gotten upset at home by bad teams in the non-conference already this year, much less the last 6 years. So is UAB going to be that team? Or is Tennessee's skill, talent, ability just going to be too much for this Blazers team? Is that money train going to meet its end or run out of track this weekend? So UAB at Tennessee is definitely a game that is on my radar. All right, next we have TCU at Oklahoma State. 3:30 game, really intriguing game in the Big 12 between, honestly, two shady teams. So this is just a matter of who's going to show up. Somebody's going to walk away with a pretty good win in this game. Both teams are coming off big upsets last week, right? TCU had that great comeback in the second half against Texas. Huge win for them over an in-state rival. Oklahoma State went on the road as big underdogs and beat Iowa State, a good Iowa State team that's really tough at names. That is not the type of situation that Oklahoma State usually steps up for, okay? Normally they're really good at home, pretty terrible on the road. And they're usually pretty bad against teams that can grind games down, teams that are physical, that run the ball, play good defense. That usually neutralizes a lot of what Oklahoma State is able to do. Now they're back home. They have a chance to really build on that upset and build a lot more momentum. They've been very good at home. Both teams are going to play a similar style where there's not going to be a ton of defense. TCU is definitely the better defensive team in this game, but that's negated by how good Oklahoma State is at home offensively. So, and it's a Big 12 game, so you have to expect a shootout. You have to expect a game that's going to come down to the last 5 minutes. I think it's going to be one of the more entertaining games on the board, even if it's not one of the most consequential. So TCU at Oklahoma State. I also know several handicappers that have big plays on both sides of this game. I know some guys that absolutely love TCU this week, and I know some guys that absolutely love Oklahoma State this week. So there's some big action on this game. I'm really interested to see how it's going to shake out. And then last but not least, the fifth game in my Ferringo 5 this week is Oregon at USC. Huge game in the Pac-12. Since they lost to Auburn in their opener, Oregon has not lost. And they should not have lost that game to Auburn. Had they won that game, if they were undefeated right now, I think Oregon would be in the top 5. They really would. It would be tough to make an argument for keeping them out of the college football playoffs. If they win out in the Pac-12 regular season, then win the Pac-12 championship game, it might be really hard to keep Oregon out of the college football playoffs. That being said, they've won each of the last 2 weeks against two pretty good teams. They won at Washington, big rivalry game. They went to Seattle and beat the Huskies. Then last week they came home, they beat Washington State, a flaky Washington State team, but a team that started the season in the top 20. So that's 2 good wins, both by fewer than 4 points though. And last week they were 2 touchdown favorites against Washington State. They won by 3. So they're starting to slow down a little bit. Enter USC. Shaky as shaky can be. Do not like Clay Helton. Do not think he is a good coach. Do not think he is the right coach for USC. They've been all over the map. They've lost games they shouldn't. They've won games they shouldn't, frankly. They beat Utah at home. That's the second best team in the Pac-12. Or you can make an argument they're the best team. Oregon and Utah are kind of the class of the Pac-12. USC already beat Utah at home in a Friday night game. Now they're getting Oregon. All right? Huge game in Los Angeles. Very talented USC team. Is Oregon going to see their college football playoff dreams crushed by the Trojans? And again, this is another one of those games where I've talked to a lot of different bettors, a lot of different handicappers, got some guys that love Oregon. Love them. Think they're the best team. Don't trust USC. Don't trust Clay Helton in a big spot. Then I know a lot of professionals, a lot of handicappers are on USC. They say USC is going to win this game outright, home underdog. Give me those points, thank you. So it's going to be interesting to see where this one shakes out. Honorable mention for my Ferringo 5 is that Miami-Florida State game. Again, 2 shady as hell ACC teams. You never know who's going to show up. but most of the time when these two teams play, it's a close game. It usually comes down to a field goal, right? All those games, Florida, Miami, Florida State, whenever they play each other, the game has to be decided by a field goal, right? Isn't it something like that? So that one will be sloppy. I'm not going to want to watch even a minute of that game because it'll make me want to pound my head against the wall watching those undisciplined wretches. However, I will be tracking that score, and I am interested, and I actually do have a solid lean on that game. But that's another game to keep an eye on. So there you go. There's your Ferringo 5 for this weekend's action. I'll be back next week. Don't forget to check out my Ferringo 5 for the NFL on Sunday. Other than that, good luck to everyone this weekend. Carpe diem. Good luck.